Hey guys, working tonight. It's late. We'll be working on this guy. The recent project in the shop. So yeah, I have decided to drop this 1.5 inches actually. So it's just too high in that wheel well there. These are 19.5s. Those other ones that come with it are huge. So I'm going to drop it just a little bit more, 1.5 inches. And then I'm going to go to my blocks of woods there. And then I'm going to take 1.5 inches out of those guys. So, and then it'll be exactly where I want it to be and should be. So I'm going to get busy marking her up here. Right here, I'm going to cut right to this line right here. And to whatever the thickness of this frame rail is. So basically just a notch. And it'll just drop down. So 1.5 inches both sides. I'm going to get at her. All right, time to mark this sucker. And I'm just going to use this zip cut, air operated zip cut. It's just a little cut, so no sense dragging cords. I don't have any fancy cordless tools, so I'm going to use this guy. Frame rail's 3 inches. I'm going to cut on that side, so at least I got a little bit of thickness. And then right along this edge. Just right on the edge. Just like that. This kind of looks a little bit wonky because there's a dent there. So I'm going to cut that out. But when I felt inside, there's like a little brace inside, so I might have to cut a little bit on the inside of this brace here as well. There she be. There she be. So I'm going to cut her open and see what's inside there. I felt a little piece of a lip of something in there, so that's going to have to be removed as well. Yep. We'll see how high up she goes. But I might have to cut it. It feels like there's a 90-degree in there, so I might have to break out the plasma for that guy. But we'll see. Let's get her open. Let's cut her up. get the gist of it. And there you have it. There is the stance on this guy. See, there's a little bit of travel there between the wheel and the wheel well. And there's a little bit of travel there on the step well there. I'll give you the measurement there in a second. Yeah, I took 1.5 inches out of the front there. I think that's what it needed. And she's still high enough to go over speed bumps with no issues. And as you've seen here, I had issues there. There was the inner splash guard that I cut out earlier. There was like a little tip of it and it had like a 90-degree on it. And it would have sat right on top of that frame rail right there. And then there was some brake lines that were P-clipped along the front there. And that would have got in the way there as well. So I had to tuck those in, so I'll deal with those after I get all this mock-up finished. And there's still clearance between the motor and the tunnel there. But I don't want to go anymore, or else I'll have to cut that up. But I actually want to use parts of the old tunnel. And let's see how high we got off the ground here. About 9.5 inches of ground clearance. That's okay with me. And then the back here, I took 1.5 inches out of my temporary mounts there. And that's it. So now I'm gonna start taking measurements, because this is on an angle here too. So I'm gonna have to make these mounts on an angle as well. Find out get my gauge out and see what the angle is on both sides, and then do my math. So yeah, that's what's next on the agenda. I'll bring you along with me as well. Got welding wire. Oh, got lots of gas. Welder turns on. We're welding today. We are welding. Exciting. So like I said in the last video, we're gonna be making the cab mounts. So this is my design that I did on the girlfriend's truck. Simple but effective. Just weld her on, and then I'll drill a hole here, and I have little rubber pads that go on here. And that's it. It's a little bit overkill, the steel, but it was free. So as you can see, it's from a big post. I got about 4 or 5 of those, so they work excellent on cab mounts. I'll show you how I come up with this design and welding it. I'm just gonna use this little pad here as my little workbench. And there's my welding chair. It's my office. It's gotta be comfortable in your work area. And there's my little metal cutting saw I cut all of the angles with. All of the angles I cut with that saw. It's just a cheap little saw, but it works. It does the job. I scored it from an auction quite a few COEs ago. Yeah, but it still works. So yeah, let's get some welding done today. And I'll show you how I come up with this. I'll show you how I marked it and everything. And then we'll get welding. And then we'll put her underneath that truck there. I'm gonna just tack them in. And then I'm going to lift the truck up. And then we're gonna do that front one in the front, that single one. And we'll make the other 2 with it in the air. It's gonna be just easier to get under there and measure, and I'm too fat and lazy to roll underneath these vehicles anymore. All right, let's do it. this is how I come up with my cap and my overhang there. It's simple. All I did was cut an extra 6 inches of this stock, and because it's 3 inches by 3 inches these pipes. So all I basically did was just grab another piece of pipe, mark it like so to the edge, mark the edge like so. So then we got 3 and 3. And then this is my cut line right here. So I scribe it again on this side. Like so, 3 inches. So, this is what it looks like. Got 3 inches and the 3 inches. So, I cut it right along where the fold is, right there. So this gets cut right here. This gets cut off. And then I just grabbed my straight edge, went to the point where my line is, and then I went to this line, and I marked it, like so. So that's how I come up with this design, the cap and the overhang. I just used my metal cutting saw for all of the angles and everything, so there's no grinding or anything necessary, but it looks good and works really well. And there you have it, eh? Finished product. So, I'm just gonna grind this a little bit, grind these so I don't cut myself or anybody else, deburr the edges, because it is pretty sharp. And then I'm gonna start mocking it up on the truck. Big step. Yeah, this didn't take long. I'm sure it would have been faster if I had a plasma cutter or plasma table and a brake, but this works. This works. All right, let's get some mocking up done. All right, guys, we're at this point of the project where I have to weld the mounts on that I made. I got them in place. I just tack welded them. And I had to put these ones here on these little pedestal here for the shock, because that's where they are in the factory location, so I'm not messing with drilling holes and stuff. And I made, well, I actually didn't even make this one. This one here for the front center mount, I actually had that sitting in my scrap pile, so I didn't have to cut nothing. I just had to weld it in place. And this is a offcut from my mounts on the back. So I got my welder already, cleaned all my steel, drilled a couple holes already where they're going to be, and this is my settings on the welder. I always have my always set my wire to high speed, and then this one here I always put it on D. If I put it on E, it like takes a fit, so I'm not sure what the deal is with that, and it sputters and spurts, and I just leave it in D for heavy stuff like this. And then I'm going to install my swap harness after I do my welding. So yeah, I'm going to show you how I weld this and then that's it. That's it. The cap will come back down after that. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, that's a nice harness, eh? Compared to that mess right there that I took out. Just lovely. I gotta go see my buddy Brent over at Half-Ass, and he's gonna unlock the computer for it this week. So that's always a good visit. A couple beers and a visit. All right, I'm gonna weld these up and get the ball rolling. I actually cut this on an angle. As you can see, I kind of mitered it to get her straight to make up for the contour in the frame. there you have it. Nice weld. That'll never let go. Never, ever, ever let go. I'm not the best welder, but my welds hold. All right. Now you see what I do. And I'll give you the dimensions of my mounts later on once I'm finished welding here. All right. Okay, so now the mounts are all burned in. Now it's time to do this LS swap harness. It's really simple. You just got to figure out which way the branches go. And the branches, like for instance, the alternator and the throttle position and the O2 sensor. So I try to find that branch. And this one here, this round one, is always the transmission and your speed sensor. So I usually pick that one in first. That was like a no-brainer. This transmission has 2 speed sensors, these 4 LEDs. This is not a standalone harness. I had a buddy knock it down from an original harness. It's not an Amazon one that I preach so much about. This is one of the older ones that I had in stock. And this one here is for the shifter. I won't be using that guy because I'm going to have an aftermarket shifter in here. And then just through some branches here. All right. This long one is always your O2 sensor. So that tells me that this branch goes on this side. And then there's your grounds. You gotta make sure you click in these coils or else you won't start. So many people do all of the work and they just forget to make it click. You got to make sure these click when you put them in. This one's a little tight, buddy. I'm going to snip that tie wrap. Yeah, just lay it on the top and then just start clicking away to all the injectors. Find all your injectors here. They're here. You go from the longest one to the shortest one. That's the way it goes here. And find your branch for your coils. And that's it. Just keep going, just keep plugging away. Make sure you hear it click every time. Alrighty. This one shouldn't be too hard because it's got all of the factory connections for a 6-liter. This is a 6-liter harness. But he left a few more that I don't need. Alright. And oh yeah, these mounts. The front mount from this perch is 3 inches on the front, and these back ones here are 8¼ inches tall. So there's the measurements. Now you have them. All right. Time to start clicking away. Alright guys, I'm going to leave this video here at this point. I got this LS harness, it's all in. Didn't take long, maybe half an hour to click everything in, figure out where everything goes, but everything has a place. It just clicks in, clicks in, clicks in. Don't be afraid of this, it's not that big of a deal. I'm going to wrap all this in after and make it all neat. And my O2 sensors are different. See, I got 2 males. So I gotta get, either splice it and solder it together or get a connector. We'll see what happens there. Same for both sides. But yeah, don't be afraid of this. This is simple. Only other thing I gotta do that's a major job here is, and I can do it after, is I gotta take out the ABS box and put a, what do you call that? A valve in there for the front and the back. I gotta put that in. So I gotta get rid of a few brake lines and just simplify it. And that's it. That is this. I'm gonna leave this one here. Thanks for watching, and catch you on the next one. Thanks for subscribing.